Do you truly believe there's a place for you here? My mother-in-law's words sliced through the air as we sat in the restaurant, the aroma of the lavish meal before us tainted by her disdain. You're just a daughter-in-law, not blood, she added, a smirk playing on her lips. She waved her hand dismissively, a gesture that felt like an invitation to leave. Anger coursed through me, making my hands tremble as I pushed back my chair to stand, but before I could exit the room, she halted me with a raised hand. Wait, what about the bill? If you're leaving early, leave the money, she demanded, a smug expression on her face. I met her gaze with a defiant smile. Why would I pay for a stranger's bill? I retorted. My name is Maya, a 28-year-old office worker. My husband, Terrell, and I are content in our relationship, except for one persistent problem, my overbearing mother-in-law. Living in close proximity to her, she constantly invaded our lives, criticizing my cooking and homemaking skills. Uninvited, she would barge in, pointing out every flaw, all while pretending to be a concerned mother. When I complained to Terrell, he didn't believe me. In his eyes, his mother was just a loving parent, blind to her manipulations. As time passed, her intrusions grew worse. Armed with a key my husband had given her, she would enter our home, criticizing and complaining about everything. She even tarnished my reputation with the neighbors, spreading lies about me. I pleaded with Terrell to move away, but he remained indifferent, busy with work. Then, a turning point arrived. His successful project led to a promotion and a significant salary increase. Seizing the opportunity, I suggested expanding our family. Now that our income has grown, perhaps it's time to think about having children, I proposed, hoping this positive change might finally open his eyes to the toxic presence of his mother. I think it's a good idea, he agreed, but if we're considering having children, I'd prefer to live in a more child-friendly town. There are very few childcare centers here, and there are no parks for children to play in. Isn't it time for us to move? Finally, my husband gave a positive response about moving, and I was happier about this than the news of his promotion. However, that feeling didn't last long. The next day, my mother-in-law came over, as usual, without any notice. I was fed up, assuming she had come to nag again, but something seemed different this time. I've decided to celebrate my son's promotion, so I've reserved a restaurant. It's a very expensive place, but it's elegant, the food is top-notch, and the staff's attitude is wonderful. It has a great reputation, she said, inviting me to join. That's nice, good for you, I replied, trying to be polite, though I was as unfriendly as ever. Well, never mind that. I want you to come to this restaurant too. Please come, she insisted. I'll check my schedule, but it's probably impossible, I added. Don't say that. We'll be waiting for you, she pressed. Even though I answered that way, she just smirked and left. Until now, she had excluded me, but now she was inviting me and saying she'd wait. There must be something going on. When I asked my husband about it when he got home, he said he had already told his mother that we would go together. She reserved that restaurant for us, and I'm looking forward to it. Don't you feel the same, Maya? He asked. Sorry, but I'm not looking forward to it. I don't know how much money it will cost at such an expensive place. I don't want to go. Just say I have urgent business and enjoy yourself, I replied, feeling apprehensive. Why are you thinking so negatively? Besides, it's not just us going to the restaurant. My brothers are bringing their wives too. It would be bad if you didn't come, with the whole family there, my husband insisted, excited about going to a fancy restaurant for the first time. Even though I didn't want to, I felt compelled to comply. My words no longer reached my husband. If he believed my mother-in-law more than me, I decided to record her harassment with a voice recorder I bought online. She was probably planning to harass me at the celebration too. I would record her voice and play it for my husband. If he still defended her, I would divorce him. With that decision, I felt a bit better. Still, the day I was supposed to meet my mother-in-law at the restaurant was depressing, and I kept sighing. I hardly knew my husband's brothers, having only met them at the wedding, and I had no memory of talking to their wives beyond greetings. When we arrived at the restaurant, the waiter led us to a large room where my mother-in-law, the other son and his wife, and the third son and his wife were already seated. A lavish spread adorned the table, with just one vacant seat. My husband, puzzled, tilted his head in confusion. Did the waiter make a mistake with the number of seats? He wondered aloud. I'll go ask. Start eating, he said, leaving the room. The moment he stepped out, my mother-in-law stood up, her expression twisted into a sneer. There's no seat for you. Why should I invite a stranger who just married my son to a family celebration? She said, her tongue dripping with disdain. So, I'll give you a choice: show your sincerity and be accepted as family, or leave and never show your face to me again. Choose now. I'm leaving, I answered without hesitation. My mother-in-law was momentarily flustered. Did she think I would beg her to recognize me as family in this situation? No way. Listen to the end. If you pay the entire bill here, I'll recognize you as Terrell's wife. You must be frustrated being treated as a stranger, so pay up and become family, she demanded. I told you, I'm leaving. Why should I pay for someone else's family's bill? I retorted, turning my back on her. My mother-in-law slammed the table and shouted, don't you get it? I'm offering to make you family. Are you okay with being a stranger? Pay up now. I'm fine being a stranger. Since I'm a stranger, I won't pay for your meal. Goodbye, mother-in-law, I said and left. She chased after me, but by the time she reached the entrance of the room, I was already at the exit of the restaurant. When I got home, thinking I'd email my husband, he returned within 15 minutes. The waiter said the reservation number wasn't wrong, and my mom was causing a scene, he said. It seemed that my declaration, that I was fine being a stranger, had also stirred something in the eldest son's wife and the third son's wife. They had previously thought enduring harassment silently was the only option, but seeing me talk back made them realize they could do it too. In their momentum, both of them left, and our husbands, the eldest and third sons, hurriedly followed suit. I had braced myself for complaints from my mother-in-law, and sure enough, within 3 hours, the phone started ringing incessantly. It was so disruptive that I eventually blocked the calls. However, one call managed to get through from an unknown number. Hello, sorry for calling so late. Is this Maya's mobile phone? The man on the other end identified himself as a police officer from the nearby police station. He informed me that after being left alone, my mother-in-law had tried to eat what she could and subsequently attempted to make me foot the bill later on. However, the restaurant staff, already disapproving of her after the earlier disturbance, declined her request. Frustrated and cornered, she erupted in rage, hurling accusations at me as if I were solely responsible for everything. Her anger spiraled out of control, and in her fury, she shattered expensive vases and flower pots throughout the restaurant. The chaos quickly escalated, forcing the restaurant staff to call the police. When the officers arrived, they attempted to calm her down, but she refused to acknowledge any fault in her actions. Not only was the bill unpaid, but the restaurant was also left to deal with a troublesome customer. With no other options, they requested assistance in escorting her home. Feeling a pang of guilt for ignoring the police's call, my husband and I begrudgingly returned to the restaurant. Upon arrival, we found my mother-in-law still fuming, surrounded by officers trying to pacify her. The moment she caught sight of me, her eyes narrowed, and she crossed her arms before yelling, "This is all your fault. If you had just paid the bill, none of this would have happened. Helping your mother is the natural thing to do, isn't it? Pay up." I was stunned. Even in the presence of law enforcement, she had the audacity to make demands and act as if she were the victim. The officers made it clear that if no one took responsibility for her, she would either be escorted to her in-laws' house in a patrol car or arrested for refusing to pay for her meal. With a cold, unwavering voice, I responded, "Do whatever you need to. Arrest her, take her away, just make sure she takes responsibility for her actions." My mother-in-law's expression shifted from rage to disbelief. "How could you be so heartless? What kind of person does this to family? Just pay already. You'll regret it if I get arrested," she pleaded desperately. But I simply shrugged. "I don't care. I'm not your family, and honestly, I have no interest in staying near someone who behaves like this." I turned on my heel, ready to leave the restaurant and let the police handle the mess, but just as I was about to step out, my husband, who had been silent this entire time, suddenly spoke up. "I get that what my mom did was wrong," he said, glaring at me, "but does it really warrant an arrest?" I let out a sharp breath. "You're missing the point. She's not in trouble because of me, she's in trouble because she dined and dashed, threw a tantrum, and destroyed property. Are you seriously suggesting that I should have paid for 6 people's meals, even though I didn't even eat?" He fell silent. Instead of responding, he walked past me toward the officers and restaurant staff. I already knew what he intended to do. "If you pay for her and cover the damages," I called out to him, "then we're getting a divorce. Think carefully." He hesitated for a moment, but then, without a word, took out his wallet. I sighed, turned away, and left the restaurant. Walking down the familiar streets, I knew exactly what I had to do. When I got home, I started packing my essentials. Just before midnight, my husband finally returned. "Mom's not getting arrested," he announced. Exhausted, she was in the wrong, but the restaurant agreed to let it go if we compensated them and promised she'd never come back. I didn't have enough money, so I had to call my brothers for help. Ugh, what a nightmare. As he rambled on, clearly expecting some sympathy, he suddenly noticed my packed bags. "Wait. What's with the bags?" he asked, confused. "I told you, if you took her side, we were getting divorced." "Don't tell me you didn't hear me," I said firmly. His eyes widened in shock, then filled with anger. "Why are you acting so weird today? I know Mom messed up, but does that mean we have to get divorced over it?" I met his gaze without hesitation. "I told you I was being harassed. I even had proof, and other people backed me up, but you still chose your mother, who nearly got arrested, over me. If you still don't understand why I'm done, then that just proves I made the right choice." He continued protesting, saying all sorts of things, but I had already checked out. I zipped up my bags and prepared for what came next. The following morning, I wasted no time obtaining the divorce papers. When I handed them over, my husband threw a fit, insisting he didn't want to sign, but when I mentioned getting a lawyer involved, he reluctantly scrawled his name, and I filed them immediately. And just like that, I was free. After the divorce, my ex-husband moved out. Since he had relied on me for nearly all household tasks, he quickly realized he couldn't manage on his own. The apartment became a disaster, and, unable to bear the mess, he eventually canceled the lease and moved back in with his parents. Amazingly, his brothers followed the exact same path. On the night they had to help cover their mother's restaurant bill, they fought with their wives, who rightfully refused to pay for their mother-in-law's mistakes, but instead of standing by their wives, they sided with their mother, using their savings to bail her out. That night, both wives reached their breaking points. They saw their husbands for what they truly were, overgrown children who would always prioritize their toxic mother, and just like that, they each filed for divorce. With nowhere else to go, all three men returned to their childhood home, living once again under their mother's roof. Naturally, word spread fast. The neighbors, already well aware of my mother-in-law's reputation, had a field day with the news. She became infamous as the woman who raised three incompetent sons, while they earned the nickname Mama's Boys, grown men who threw away their marriages to defend their unreasonable mother. Despite their efforts to spread their own version of the story, no one believed them. The neighbors had seen enough of my mother-in-law's behavior over the years to know exactly where the truth lay. They kept their distance, watching from the sidelines as she and her son stewed in their own mess. As for me, I cut all ties. I changed my contact information, moved to a new home, and left them behind. They had no way to find me, and they spent their days bitterly complaining about the ungrateful women who had abandoned them. Meanwhile, my life flourished. Without the burden of my mother-in-law and my ex-husband, I found peace, I made new friends, reconnected with myself, and, surprisingly, grew close to my former sisters-in-law. We bonded over our shared experience, turning our past misery into a source of connection. Now, we regularly meet up for meals, go shopping together, and support one another. In a way, I have my ex-husband to thank for these wonderful friendships. The day after tomorrow, we're planning to check out a new cafe. For the first time in years, I feel completely free, able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. It's such a simple thing, yet it feels like a newfound luxury. Looking back, I know I made the right choice. I walked away from toxicity and found happiness on my own terms, and for that, I will always be grateful. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay tuned.